to the forsaken forest, where things are not always as they seem. Also, this is like the board game mechanics review of Forsaken Forest, the board game. I guess I didn't need to get that intense. Have a good time. Enjoy this video. Here comes Joel.
We're taking a look at Forsaken Forest, which is a strategy game with secret identities and survival, as based on the box for ages 14 plus, 4 to 12 players, and it takes more than 30 minutes for sure. Let's take a look at all the components. First off, we have a board, which is important because it takes care of the spatial element of the game. Then we have several decks of cards. The purple back cards are the traveler cards. Those cards are going to be really important. They're going to be basically at the heart of the whole game. These green cards are like different locations, which we'll get to in a second. I'll stick those there for now. We also have this red deck. This red deck is the forest deck. This is the deck that we're kind of playing against, that we don't like. It tends to be something that's not fun for us. Get to that in a little bit too. You've got a bunch of these travel tokens. These are going to be put onto the board that help us get to different destinations. Again, we'll get to that in a second too. There's an artifact deck, so we can explore different areas of the forest to find these artifacts, which are going to be really powerful, help us survive. This is the deck of rolls. Look at all these roll cards in here. Lots of them. Several duplicates, but we're going to randomize some rolls and have different rolls in this game. Finally, there is the turn track kind of thing over here. And there's a couple ways that I've seen this done. One way is as you play your traveler cards, you'd put them down over here. And once this gets full, then we would trigger the forest turn. We'll get into that in a little bit, but that's going to keep track of what turn it is, when it is. Setup for this game is pretty simple. I already showed you most of it. We have that turn track order over here. We're going to have that set off to the side to keep track of our turns. Then these traveler decks, we're going to shuffle them up and put them one half on each side so players can easily reach them. Then players are going to start off with 3 traveler cards. We're also going to take the roll cards, and we're going to get rolls commensurate with the number of players that we have. So this would be a game with 4 players, which I would not suggest. It's not enough. You'd have 3 common folk, 1 forsaken. Shuffle these up. Everybody gets a hidden roll. There are some really cool rolls in there too that I'm not going to cover in this video, but they involve like dual identities. They involve being able to peek at some cards. In a 4-player game, I probably wouldn't use those. But in a 12-player game, there's no reason not to use them. So we have those secret rolls put out. We shuffle up our artifact cards, which are cool cards that help the whole group. I mean, those are just very helpful cards. We shuffled up our forest cards over there, which we'll get to in a second. And we're going to start off the game by having a night phase. And that's when the Forsaken get to kind of do what they do. And they're going to take these cards here, and they're going to place dead ends on all the locations except for 2, which 2 of them are going to have, well, one's going to have the village and one's going to have the void. So they're going to place these face down around the board in secret while everyone's eyes are down. And they're going to just try and kind of figure out where they think these should go. And they're going to remember, that's some of the special knowledge the Forsaken has, is they remember where the village and the void are at. So the whole point of this game is you're going to use your traveler cards to try and do slow and fast actions. So a slow action, this is at the heart of the game. You're going to have a lot of these come into your hand. Slow action, forge a path. So on your turn, I'm drawing a card, adding it to my hand. So I've got a few choices here. Forge a path is an easy one. I'm going to play this card down. I'll put it on my tracker over there because it's going to show that we took a turn as players. And it's advancing towards a forest turn. But then I put one of these chits down. And these chits have to be either adjacent to the center square or adjacent to each other. So I'm trying to make a path. And let's say I want to get down to here. I'm going to try and get over to there. And if I get there, I get to draw one of those artifact cards, which are going to help me. If I get to one of these other squares here with the red, I get to reveal it and see, hey, did we get out of the forest or did we end up being led? into the void. Nope, just a dead end. So that dead end doesn't help us. So we're going to, as a team, be doing that. If this were happening right here, I would be very suspicious of the players like that are putting down the path tokens, because they're going straight for something. If the void is uncovered, which is right here, so look, they're like just a couple of tokens away from being able to get to the void. If they lead people to the void, then the Forsaken have won. The way how the good guys win, the common folk, is they get you to the village where there's safety. So the navigator is one of the roles in the game. He gets to look at the different destinations in the game, and he's one that's going to be give you a chance to, kind of put trust in him. But you gotta, man, it's hard to know if you know who the navigator is or not, because it's secret identities again. So these cards, though, that we're having, these traveler cards, I'm not going to go through them at great depth, but they really, honestly, are at the heart of this game, so much so that they just, they break the game and change the game so often. Take inventory, as you can see there, says choose a player and peek at their hand, draw a card. So that's a good way to see if someone's lying or not. If someone's not been playing any, Forge a Path cards or done anything to like try and, help the team, and they've got a bunch of helpful cards in their hands, or they didn't revive someone and they had a revive card in their hand, which is a way how once someone's sentenced to death, they can be brought back, then you can be really suspicious of that person. There's just all kinds of crazy traveler cards in there, such as Soul Inspection. Choose a player and peek at their roll card. So that's one that you get a look at someone's roll, which is crazy. This one's not quite as powerful, but it allows you to look at someone who's been eliminated from the game's roll. There's also attacks on other players, such as this one that allows someone not to speak for an entire turn cycle. So 6 turns, and then the forest goes. The forest, again, we put cards down, or you can move a tracker down, but then we fill this up, and now it's the forest turn. And the forest is going to have a number of different things happen. And there's 3 kinds of cards, basically. There's disasters, and there are curses, and let's see if I can get a darkness card here. Wow, this would be really lucky. Here we go. Here's a darkness card. So what these are going to do is what the card effects say, but the darkness cards are going to be the one where we go to a night cycle, and during the night, the Forsaken are going to kill someone. So we don't want those night cycles to happen any more than they have to. But we basically know that every six cards that are played, we're going to have to flip a card that's just really going to hamper us and hurt us. And there are some fast actions that you can take after you flip these cards that are going to mitigate some things. But in general, that's going to be a bad time that you're going to have there. So the added layers of complexity come in this game when you add the idea of hidden roles and motivations. So a card such as Trusty Binoculars, simple enough, lets you peek at a destination card. Really powerful, but when you add that shroud of, am I telling the truth or not, it makes a card like this so complex and game-changing. Because if I'm a Forsaken, I look at this card and I'm going to lie to you. If I'm a common folk, I look at this card and I go, this is the village. We need to get here. So again, are we going to start walking up to the village because I'm trusted, I'm a trusted common folk? Or am I leading you to the void? Such interesting mechanic there with just how these cards all work so differently for the different teams. How they're useful for deceiving people, but also can provide such life-giving information. And I'm really at the heart of the game of this idea of what motivates this player. Makes that hidden identity thing so much more interesting and just a lot cooler than it is in other games where you're doing simple voting and things. So an added layer that just makes card play just kind of neat, kind of cool. So worth mentioning for sure. So Forsaken Forest, hopefully you've got a good idea of how this game works. I'm going to go through some final thoughts for you now, just kind of let you get a better feel of if you think this game's for you or not. So I'm going to start with some highlights of this game. I think this is an interesting take on social deduction games. I mean, like social deduction games have become kind of rinse repeat, where it's like we're just trying to figure out who the bad guys and the good guys are, and then eliminate the bad guys and be the good guys who win. We've seen some twists on that where you're voting for certain things, or you're trying to defeat villains with some sabotagers in there. But this one adds more layers to it. This one, it just the card play and the way how the cards work, depending on which side you're on and how you can just swiftly change the game with the drop of a card, makes this game, you're on your edge of your seat the whole time. So I think that's really neat. I like that quite a bit. So I think it's another layer to it. I think the replayability in this game is going to be pretty high. I feel like there's just so many cards in that deck. There's a lot of repeats, but there's just a lot of cards in there. And just playing with the base rolls, which is what I've basically done at this point, is interesting. And I could play it, 10 times probably without being like super tired of it and not want to play it. And then you can spice things up by adding that navigator or the cursed or these different rolls that add to it even a little more. So I think the replayability on this one's going to be really high. If this is the only social deduction game you owned, it would probably be an evergreen, honestly, for as often as you get chances to play social deduction games out there. I really like the art in this game. The art and the cards in this game remind me a lot of Magic the Gathering. They just have a similar font selection. The layout of the cards is similar. And then the art really does strike me as similar to Magic the Gathering, which is high praise. Magic's been praised for its art. People collect Magic art. So the art in this game is really great. There are some things that aren't for me. And I'm just going to lump it all into the idea of graphic design, like the way how the graphic design in this game is. So it's picky, but the board's like a shiny finished board. If they would have gone with a matte finished board, it would have looked just a lot nicer. And the card backs are also similar. They're easy to tell because of the different colors, but I think maybe less is more on the card backs. They could have, I don't know, maybe done a little something different on the card backs to make them just easy to tell, but like I think just a less is more in this game, really, with some of the graphic design choices. They went above and beyond on putting art on every little thing. And I think sometimes just having like a little more plainness can help with gameplay. And also just the aesthetic choices that they made in this game. I don't like the font they used for the cover. So like the logo that you saw earlier, I don't personally like it. And that's totally a preference thing. It's not, you guys made a bad choice. It's not my preference. The color palette, I don't care for that much. But they made choices because they liked it. And I appreciate that. It's not for me. And I think they can appreciate something's not for me and it doesn't make it bad or good. The other thing too is like I grew up in the 80s in like a pretty conservative Christian background. Still consider myself a Christian. And like I know pentagrams are nothing. They're a cardboard. But like I do have friends that are in that same Christian circle who grew up in the satanic hysteria of the 80s. And they don't like pentagrams. Like they just have a really hard time wanting to play with pentagrams or touch pentagrams. Like they think there's a certain like power to the just design of that. I'm past that, but I know people in my gaming group who aren't, and so they absolutely will not play this game because the ideas of like it being occultic or something. I don't know. So, and I mean, I'm well informed that the pentagram has been used in Christian backgrounds and pagan backgrounds and a lot of different backgrounds, not just Satanism. So, again, that satanic hysteria of the 80s like definitely put a stigma to that for people my age. So I think that by choosing that, they may have limited their crowd a little bit. In my experience, I mean, like it's anecdotal, but in my group, I know of at least 2 people in my group that won't play this game because it has pentagrams in it. If they would have put something else in there, they would play this game and enjoy it. So that's one that like I think maybe they limited their audience a little bit on that. But I get the pentagram like is representing evil, and it's a kind of universal sign for evil maybe, or like magical practices or something. I don't know. So, where do I put this game at? Let's go back here and take a look here. Accessibility, I'm going to say this game is, most everybody can play this game. I think anybody can pick up, play a card, draw a card, play a card. If you have fast actions, you can do them. We're trying to get to one of these spots by putting down steps. The basic game, pretty easy. I think the 14 plus age requirement isn't because of the mechanics in this game. I think it's just, it takes social awareness to be able to lie and play things off and be able to think through complex situations of deception and things that you're trying to do in this game. And that might be why you need to be 14 to do this game. I think mechanically it's pretty solid, pretty basic. The theme, this is going to be many people will play this. Again, I already talked about this. I mean, I think it's just like one of those things where certain people aren't going to appreciate the fact that there's pentagrams in it. They aren't going to like the ideas of like evil and being an evil character. So some people aren't going to like this game for that reason. And I mean, like, I'm not trying to bash this game or say you shouldn't get it, but if you are one of those people, it is present. And if you have those people in your game group, which I do, it is present. So it does have some limiting factors there. The fun on this, it's a pretty fun game. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5 for fun. It's just, I like social deduction games. They are a thing I enjoy. This one adds a little more to social deduction games. So pretty cool. I think that's a cool thing overall. So I dig that. The replayability is really high on this one as well because there's that huge stack of cards. And you can go through that whole stack of cards and see unique things happen. The order the cards come out, the way how things are going to play out. The fact that the different locations are changed every time is going to be a big deal. So that's something that I think really it's rock solid, honestly. The design and the art, again, the art is like a 5. The design I don't like, and it's a personal preference thing, and that thing of like limiting with the pentagram use and stuff like that. So I get why they did it. I mean, I get that the pentagram in there like is something that portrays a certain emotion or feeling of this is bad, this is evil, this is not okay. It's pagan or it's occultic or whatever. But there is just a stigma with it, especially with people who grew up in the hysteria of the satanic 80s, like I mentioned before. And as goofy as it is, and I'm going to say it is goofy, like it's cardboard. Like, what is the significance in cardboard? You got me. I'm with you. But I do have people in my group who just won't play this game. And I know, like, your thought's going to be, we'll find new people to play it with. Well, they're nice people. And I mean, I respect them. They have their beliefs, and I'm not going to judge them. So, a limiting factor. So overall, I really do like this game. I think it's a perfectly good game. And I think if you like social deduction games, this might be one that you could really enjoy. I don't know. Do you have some thoughts on this game? Have you played it? Do you enjoy it? I think it's a pretty neat little game. And at about a $35 price point on Amazon, you can get it fairly inexpensively. So Forsaken Forest, look for this one around. I think it's fairly new. It's starting to make the circuit a little bit. But another twist on social deduction. And I mean, in closing, I'll say this. Blood on the Clock Tower has similar stuff with, the pentagrams and playing as demons and stuff like that. So there's going to be the same limiting factor in Blood on the Clock Tower. But that game was massively like popular on Kickstarter just recently. I think this one's like maybe I'm waiting for that game. And this is a step towards that, So I don't think it has quite the thick RPG needing a moderator kind of thing going on it, which is kind of good, actually, in a lot of ways. But it does give you that extra rich play with trying to figure out secret roles and things. So overall, I would say this game is for you if you like social deduction quite a bit and you want that next level game. So that's it. I've been Joel and keep gaming. No! No! Ah!